Hello and welcome to the TC Exchange podcast. I'm Amity Kraus, ex-retail girl turned realtor turned business owner, where I teach new transaction coordinators how to navigate the complex real estate industry and coach experienced TCs how to level up their game and businesses to add even more value to their agents. Come along with me while I guide you through this intense, complicated, but always fun world of transaction coordination. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today on this episode of the TC Exchange podcast. My name is Amity Kraus, and I am your host. Now, we are certainly going through an interesting time in real estate. The housing market is in flux, and we are seeing interest rates at a higher rate than we've seen in many years. And with the increase of the cost of getting a loan, we're seeing home buyers and investors have to become a little more creative in how they finance their purchase. And that's where creative financing comes in. I'm sure that many of you have heard the term before, and it's been a little bit since it's been in the real estate space in some areas, but it's becoming a topic that's more and more prevalent. And it begs the question, what is creative financing? And how can a transaction coordinator navigate this exciting world? Today, we are speaking with Jay Holder with Finish Line Transactions, a transaction coordinator company that specializes in creative financing for real estate. Take a listen. All right. Well, hello, Jay. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am excited to hear from you and learn more about creative financing and how a transaction coordinator can make an impact. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you. Yeah. So before we get started or get into deep, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate.
Oh, absolutely. So my name is Jay again. I started real estate almost 2 years ago. I actually started going down the YouTube rabbit hole that everybody who starts recently in real estate is. I started by watching Grant Cardone, and then I found Pace Morby as one of his videos. And I was going down that rabbit hole for about 3 months before he opened the Gator method back up, which is where you just do transactional lending. So lending on EMDs, double closes, all the way into PML and private money, partnering with people to give them the funds to buy the property or furnish it or whatever, and then taking a piece of the equity. From there, I joined his sub 2 group and almost immediately started TCing, not knowing what a TC was. People were asking questions. I was answering the questions about paperwork, what to do, how to do it. And people were just like, you just do this for me. And that was how I started into the TC realm and been going ever since.
Nice. So have you worked, you hadn't worked as a transaction coordinator in the conventional sense at that point. So your experience has been through creative financing.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Everything's been done through the creative finance side of my company has done quite a few traditional transactions. We actually have 20 employees in our company, and I'd say a third of them are real estate agents, and so they're able to do those transactions in their area, and they moonlight with us on the creative side.
Yeah, nice, nice. So when you were looking at the conventional stuff like the Grant Cardone YouTubes, and then you were introduced to creative financing with Pace Morby and that genre. Tell me about what sparked your interest in creative financing. What made you go, hey, this is my path.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I have a day job. I have a 9 to 5 job, and it's working in corporate America as a chief information security officer. And so going to get my real estate license and going that route just didn't seem like away from me. And again, I was coming in as an investor. I never knew what a TC was, never thought I would be a TC after. But as an investor, learning how to buy property using other people's money with no money down, learning how to leverage subject to on a house to where we can help people who can't pay their mortgage, we can help build their credit. We don't have to qualify for the house because they've already done all that. And then being able to help people connect to funds that they normally traditionally don't qualify for was amazing. One of the things that we look at is if I go to sell my house and I've only owned it for 2 years, I've got a great interest rate, but my equity is horrible. And so I end up having to bring money to the closing table. And then you have somebody like me who comes in and goes, "Hey, what if I could give you the amount you were going to bring to the closing table and I just take over your payments? I help you with how to get your DTI lowered over the next year so that you can go qualify for another house. And I show you how to do all of that, and you didn't spend anything." And so it's really good because again, I get to help somebody get out of a situation that they have or that they don't want to be in anymore. I get to help myself, obviously, because I'm going to get a property that I'm either going to wrap to sell or I'm going to rent out long term or I'm going to turn into my passion project is turning them into sober livings. And so I've been doing that on my buy and hold side. And so that's what drove me to creative finance was all the windows it opens when you take the bank out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically what creative financing is, right? It is finding other solutions to purchasing or selling a home versus going through the traditional lender, right?
Yep.
So tell me, you mentioned some of the different types of creative financing, like sub two. I think we hear quite frequently. I think that's probably one of the most common common things we hear. And I'll tell you for myself, before I really became aware of creative financing, when someone would say sub two, I was like, what do you mean sub two selling your other house? I don't understand. So tell us a little bit more about the types of creative financing options that there are available and what a transaction coordinator could see come across their desk.
Oh, absolutely. So we see them also subject to obviously seller finance, and then you have a hybrid. You have somebody who's got a great amount of equity in it in their house or perceived equity, but the market's just not there. And so let's say they owe $100,000 on their house, but they want 250,000. I would come in and say, okay, I'll give you 200,000. I'll take your mortgage over subject to. I'll give you a deposit or down payment, and then I will do a seller finance on the remainder. So that's called a hybrid deal. Then you have novations, which are a way to secure a property, do rehab, and then put the property on the MLS to sell. And then make sure that the current owner of the house gets paid, you get paid your expenses and profit, and everybody walks away happy. And then you have multiple other types of deals out there, but those are the main ones that people would know. And then again, it gets creative from there too. Like I said, if you do a sub two and then you need to put cash in or you need to pay a monthly payment, then you're into the sub two with seller financing. That hybrid deal is really a attractive one, but that's where you have to start working, making sure that the maths, right? You got to make sure you can pay it all based on
Yeah.
what you're going to get for the property.
Yeah.
And then we also do seller finance on vehicles. So we do sub two and seller financing on like cars, trucks. I haven't done a boat yet or a plane. Those are my two next ones I really want to do. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting because, I have talked to so many people. We're going to go on a little tangent, I think, but, but I've talked to so many people who are like that, that the reality is the car payments are really expensive right now. And because it's a depreciating asset, right? Like you get upside down real quick. And you
yep,
can't sell sell the car for back to the dealer without owing some money. So it never even occurred to me to get creative with that kind of thing. That's amazing.
yeah.
That's,
It's really
yeah,
good. It's really good if you have like you said, no equity in your car, and it's a depreciating asset, and it's good for people who can't afford or can't not afford but can't qualify necessarily for a car loan, or somebody like me who just doesn't want it to hit their DTI because I want to put all my money into real estate. So if I needed to buy a car, I could buy it in my company name through doing it, taking over your payments. I help you out. Your credit's going to go up. I've got it. Now, there's obviously a lot of securities there that have to be in place. And that's where we come in as TCs, is making sure that that security gets in place.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. So let's shift back to real estate. You're involved in a deal that is A creative financing deal is seller financing. And basically, tell me about seller financing specifically, and where because my understanding is that basically the borrower, the purchaser, is going to take over the payments for on the property. Do they get the deed right away? How does that work? And then how is the seller protected, since they are really still remaining on the loan? And then what about situations like a due on sale clause? What are some of the things even a TC, whether they are creative financing or just in general, what do you need to be aware of?
Yeah. So if we're doing a sub two deal, the first thing that we do is we make sure that the contract's compliant, right? So we make sure that you have an actual purchase agreement. We make sure that you have the seller addendums and the subject to addendums, which is essentially just making sure the seller understands they still are responsible for the mortgage. Make sure the buyer understands their piece in the entire thing. And basically just make sure everybody's indemnified by understanding what they're doing. Because you can do a purchase contract all day long, but the seller might not really understand what they're doing. So in these addendums, you're able to have them initial everything and do all of that to where they know exactly what's going on. Then from there, where we work with the title company, we make sure the title company understands the type of transaction we're doing. Number one, most of us who've been doing it for a while, we have title companies in every market that we're able to call and use because they understand these transactions because we've worked with them. I know our company, we meet with title companies and actually do training with the title company so that they understand what we're doing. Um, then from there, we just do the communications and make sure that everybody comes to the table at the closing. We get the mortgage login or the way to pay the mortgage. If it's somebody who's got like their mortgage and their bank account tied together, we obviously don't get the buyer that login because they can get to their bank account. So we work with how to set up ACH payments and things like that. Um, and really and truthfully, the buyer is usually the one who brings us in. And in my company, I'm not saying this is how all TCs work, and I'm not saying my way is right or wrong. It's just the way we work, is that we work for the seller, regardless that the buyer brought us in, regardless of the buyer's paying us our fee. We work for the seller because the seller is the one at the end who has the asset to lose and the credit to lose. And so we do everything to tell the seller, hey, you need to make sure they're going to set up servicing after this so that there's a servicing company that services your loan. They're automatically drawing the money out, they're automatically paying it. They're alerting you ahead of time that, hey, they haven't paid us yet. So you can get involved as the seller if that happens. And so anyway, that's part of our job as the TC to make sure all that happens. Now, we offer a service, it's not part of a normal because it's not a have to, but we offer it where we come in, help you set up your insurance, make sure it gets transferred correctly out of the seller's name into your name, put it onto the mortgage correctly, all the utilities set up, make sure all the mortgage stuff is done correctly to help combat the due on sale clause that you brought up. If due on sale does get called, we have signed documents inside of our actual contract and closing packet that says if due on sale gets called, you can come back to us. We'll help you with it. There's 7 different ways to combat due on sale, and really the first way is honestly us. If you bring us in to fix it, it's not a normal thing because it doesn't get called that often. So it's a service we do offer. The number one thing we're going to do is call the lender and just talk to them, be like, hey, look, you explain to me why the due on sale is getting called. What do you as the lender need to see to rectify this? Because they're not going to pay the due on sale. Generally, like high level, it's deeding the property back to the seller, and then you put it on an executory contract for deed, lease purchase, whatever you want to put it on, because the property still should go to the buyer because they've put out all this money to get it. It's just how you do it. And so it's really good to understand, like making sure the right people understand what's happening and will be willing to help you. So far, knock on wood, I've done over 1,000 transactions and not one due on sale clause has been called.
Okay.
Now we do look for things. We do look for things to see if due on sale is a risk. And one of those is if you're with like Mr. Cooper or one of these big M&T, one of those big conglomerates, you're probably okay. I'm not gonna say you're 100% okay because I'm not gonna do that, but you're probably okay. If you're with Podunk, Tennessee Community Bank, you may have a problem. Somebody's cousin may work at the title place, like, hey, this deed transferred, it's one of y'all's properties. It could happen. I can tell you we've seen that more from smaller institutions like that, like the local communities, banks in the environment, not my clients, but in the clientele in general. But from big banks, we don't see that problem. And
Gotcha.
again, just one more, they don't want to do it. Like they don't want to file the due on sale because they got to do a lot of work. That's why they give you like, hey, this is your first one. This is your second. This is your third. Hey, we're going to give you a final. Hey, here's a final. They don't want to do it because it's more work for them. And
Yeah.
so they're really amped to work with you. You just got to know how to approach them and how to communicate with them. And that's what we train on.
So tell me, do you see in these types of transactions, do you see most of your buyers, are they using like hard money loans? Or are they using cash? How are they funding the loan in these types of situations?
Well, so that's the good thing is they're not funding loan, right? Most of the time, if you're talking about like a buy and hold where I'm coming in, I'm getting the property with no money out of my pocket other than closing costs. I'm probably paying for that out of my pocket right now. When you're
Mhm.
bringing money to the table, they get private money lenders in the community and outside the community. It's people who've got money. They want to park it. They want to make a decent chunk of change as a return. And so it could be one or two ways. It can be, or three ways technically. They could bring and put in money, and you pay them a monthly fee on the money until you refinance out. Then you give them their money back and a portion of that. It can be just a straight wait till they refinance, so you can get the money 6 to 9 months from them, and then you pay them a percentage whenever you refinance out of the profit. And then the other one is you could have somebody who just comes in and buys the equity position. So let's say you needed 20 grand, and it's going to be, say, a pad split or a co-living house that's going to net 7,000 a month. Well, then they may want 25% of the profit forever. And that's you found the deal, you did the deal, you managed it. They just brought money.
Mhm.
Um, then you got the other side. You do have like the fix and flip where people go and get hard money loans, because those are usually 80 to 90 and 100% of the rehab. So they'll go get those, and then they'll bring in a private money lender for the middle part, the gap funding to fund the closing. And then from that, whenever they fix it up, rehab it, resell it, off of that, they'll pay the hard money lender off. They'll pay the PML off, and then they'll keep the profit. I've personally flipped a house, and that's how we did it. We didn't bring in a hard money. We brought in a private money lender who paid for the entire purchase and the rehab and collected his profit off of that. It was a great thing to do. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it makes it real easy. Like it puts qualifying for loans on your business merit and not your personal credit, right? Because we all have things that could have caused our personal credit to go down. It doesn't mean we're not good. It just means we had some dumb decisions, especially if you're young. Young people seem to make the dumbest decisions. I got two kids that are over 18, so I can say that. Young kids seem to make the dumbest decisions financially.
True. That's true. It doesn't matter. Some of us are still making dumb decisions 30 years later. It happens. It happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So with with these creative transactions, and you're working as a transaction coordinator, I'm assuming there's no agent involved, right? There are no real estate agents involved typically. Is that correct?
No, I mean, usually you can have them on the seller side. I'm recently working a deal where we have one on the buyer's side. It's just because they called the guy before they called me. But generally on the seller side, there can be an agent because that's how they find out that they're not going to make any money on the back end, the seller, and that how they might have to bring money to the table and all that. So if there is, that's fine. We work with the agents. I mean, really and truthfully, the agents pretty much get a free pass to collect some money whenever it comes to this because they still have the contract. They're still going to get their percentage, but they can't really do anything on the sub two side. We have to handle it all because a lot of times the brokerage won't allow them to do it, or they just don't understand it because they're not taught it, right? I've got some agents that are amazing though. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I've got agents that work for me as TCs and they're amazing. They understand creative, they buy creative, but by and large, it's not taught, right? And so um, but anyway, working with agents is fine. It's perfectly fine. It's great. And it's great because we get to educate them. I've worked with an agent, taught her what I do, and she's brought me 6 leads in the past 3 months that I've looked at buying their property. So far I've only had one under contract and the seller got nervous and backed out, but that is,
Yeah.
that's to be expected.
Yeah. So would you say, so tell me what in your mind the difference is between a traditional transaction coordinator and how, or is it simply a model difference between a traditional transaction coordinator and a creative financing transaction coordinator? What are you saying the big difference is? And is it something that either side, creative, whether you specialize in creative financing or you specialize in conventional, can you cross over? What are your thoughts on that?
So the biggest difference I'll say is with the way I see it, right, is with the traditional TC is it's very symmetric, right? It's do this, do this, do this, do this, and you can follow a checklist. And that's just general about with 9 out of 10 deals on the traditional side. It's gonna have a timing, it's gonna all follow the same pattern. That's why you can work 70 files at one time because they all follow a list. Creative, we try to do that. We try to follow a checklist, but it's more of a hey, make sure you have this stuff list because every single deal is different. And that's the biggest part is that knowing the fact that there's no straight, even when you say sub two, I can take 5 sub 2 deals, they're all different because we've hit a different title company, we've hit a different type of lender. The seller has different types of questions or wants different things for the file, and so it's a big difference in that gap. And it's really more work because again, not only do we if we work with agents, do we explain to them, but if we have to use the seller's choice of title company because the buyer doesn't want to, pick their own because they want to keep the seller happy or not make the seller nervous, well, then we got to go in and try to explain it to the title company, work with them multiple times. The HUDs and sub two deals, 0 out of 100% are ever right. They're never correct the first time around. We go through 2 or 3 of those because it's not traditional, right? Do I think that there's a crossover? Yeah, I absolutely think. I think it would be harder, a lot harder for creative TCs to move to the traditional space because we are out there just going and doing, and we're not sitting there waiting on a step. Like we have a lot of stuff to do. But I think that, yeah, I think traditional TCs moving into the creative space with the right training, yeah, this is definitely capable. Because and we're all, most of us, everybody on my company is certified through top tier TC certification. So we've all went through the certification. We all got our diplomas, and that's what got us where we are today. And then the people on my team come and we train them on how we do things in our company, and it works out great.
Yeah. It's so interesting because there are so many different models of transaction coordinators and businesses are out there. We see models where it is simply about just providing compliance, brokerage compliance for agents and their transactions, and we see more transaction management where the TC is an actual party in the transaction. They're like your first point of contact because your agent's off dealing with is their next deal. But it sounds like to me from the way you're describing what you as a creative financing transaction coordinator and your involvement is that you really are, you're offering counsel to the clients, you're explaining the processes to them, right? Like you're really being like there you're if there were not an agent on it, you would be the person who's basically the agent, right? Kind of.
Well, so kind of. I just got to preface like we're not agents. Like even my agents can't represent, but we give an opinion from an investor perspective because you got to think about it, we really only deal with investors. Unless
Mhm.
somebody is selling to an end buyer and they want us to help them with the paperwork, we don't deal with end buyers. We deal with investors, and so we give them our investment opinion. We also my again everything I say is about my team, right? So we have a risk metric that we score your deal on our risk metric. If it's outside of our metric, we pass on your deal. We'll just tell you, hey, it's too risky, and here's why. But if you want to keep trying, here's 3 or 4 TCs we recommend you talk to. We will do that as a company because we want to keep our name, our personal names, and our company names, clean and free from any drama. And so we try to make sure we do that. But yeah, we when they say counsel, I just be careful. So we do provide experience, expertise, and investment knowledge and opinions. Whether they choose to take it, it's kind of like people who work with a real estate agent. They can choose to take the agent's advice or not.
Right.
Whether that's right or wrong, I don't, but I like work, but I have worked with a lot of agents that are really good. And so I do like that perspective that I don't know if it's better for me with an agent or without. I think definitely a seller's agent's better for me to have than a buyer's agent. Buyer's agents tend to think you're cutting them out of some deal or some money. I'm like, look, I'm gonna take care of everything because we do become that point of contact. What I tell my clients are once you've got the contract signed and you give it to me, you're just copied on the emails. Everything's an FYI. You don't need to call title. You don't need to do any of that unless I say, hey, I was like, unless I say, hey, Amy, I need you to answer this question for title. Then, hey, now you're queued up to do something. Other than that, you just sit back and watch. And then if you have any questions, you just get with me and ask me the questions. And I'll walk you through whatever. But yeah, we do, like you were saying on that one, we become that point of contact with
Yeah.
an agent or without, because half the time, like I said, with tradition, with creative, it's over with after it comes to us. We take care of it.
So, so you mentioned earlier about about a lot of some documents and related to sub two and taking over the purchase of the home or taking over the deed for the house and so on, the loan. Um, you're not using like the state approved forms, right? You do you have special forms that are for your contracts to buy and sell, or how does that work?
Yeah. So in our communities that we're in, that we have access to attorney drafted documents that are supposed to be universal. Now, that said, if you're not in our community and you're still doing it, we still help you. We just have to use not the community documents because we're not allowed to under our NDA. And so, what I will tell you is we run into title companies that only want us to use state. So in Texas, yes, we use the TREC form and we use the TREC addendums, but we also have went through those ad nauseum with the real estate agents that I have that are on my team that are in Texas. And there's things that are not there that we want as the protection. So we just built those into our own addendum that gets attached to the state contract. But yes, if the state contract allows it, we can do it with the state contract if they ask. So really and truly, the only two ones that really we ever get asked to use is the TREC in Texas and the car in California.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Most title companies are good with what we got.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. So, let's go back to business models and the transaction coordinating services. Tell me about what you have seen, the levels of services that are provided by different TC companies out there. What do you see? What types of models do you see?
Gotcha. So our company has one of the biggest ones, and pretty much every other company falls into some of what we have. So I can talk about what we have. So we offer all the conventional that you want. I'm not conventional. Sorry, all of the creative you want. So sub two, novations, Morby methods, all of those we handle those. Then we're the only ones that handle Puerto Rico. So we have a TC that owns 3 houses in Puerto Rico. She's moving to Puerto Rico. And so we've done deals in Puerto Rico as well. And then we have other packages around like foreclosure help. So we can help you stop like pre-foreclosures. We can come in and help you stop your foreclosures creatively as a TC, like if somebody wants that. And then we offer our post-closing services. So this is once everything is done at the title company, we pass it over to a team that we have dedicated. They're the ones who come in and help you with your insurance, the mortgage transfer, doing everything the right way to make sure you're successful, setting up servicing so that your seller feels, great about having a third party handle the money. Then we also offer, we personally are partnered with notary companies. We have lawyers on staff. So if you need help with writing deeds of trust, promissory notes, things like that, we have lawyers that can do that for you as well, that we've partnered with. And so when I said and then we do, okay, we do vehicles as well, like we said earlier. So we offer a gamut of anything you want to do creatively. We can do it, or if we can't, give us a little bit of time and we will be able to do it because we'll sit down with lawyers, we'll sit down with counsels and figure out how we can help you get it done. I had this conversation, somebody approached me about buying a house creatively in Bali a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, hey, I could do it with enough time and a lawyer. I can figure out how to do it with them. So I plan on helping her in the coming weeks, getting her second house in Bali. First one she paid cash for, but now she wants to buy them creatively. So
Yeah. That's
yeah, I
awesome. That's
think I'm just going to charge her a week vacation. That'll
there
work.
you go. I'll do That's awesome. So, so if you came across a transaction coordinator that was looking to, break into transaction coordination in in the creative field, give me a couple of tips. What would you tell them where to start?
I mean, number one, I would say get on YouTube and go and look up Pace Morby, look up Subject Two, watch everything he's got because he's going to high level go over the documents and the details. Right? He'll bring in his original transaction coordinator, who's now his COO, and she's amazing. Her name's Molly Tennant. She's
Mhm.
on a lot of his videos going over paperwork. And then once you've done that, he's got a free Facebook group. Jump in that, start reading, learning. And then if you really want to learn the TC, honestly, it's signing up for her course for Molly's the one who put it together, Molly and Ashley. But go sign up for it, take it, get that certification. It's going to get you access to all the investors that are part of his group, part of his community. And I think there's like 15,000 of us right now. So it gives you a lot
Wow.
of people. Um, and then try to find somebody who's doing it, JV with them a lot, like joint venture. So like if it's somebody out there who's never, and I do this now with current competitors, right? We have a thing in our community. We don't believe in competition. We believe in collaboration. And so while I say competitors, because they're another company, I collaborate with them. I help them, they help me. It's nothing for me to text, one of the owners and go, "Hey, I need this document. Have you seen, do you know where it's at?" And they'll send it to me going, "Here you go." And it's usually already filled out with an example. So I don't have to go, "How do I fill this out?" And vice versa. So always be willing to help, always be willing to connect and share. Um, and I think that's what's driven a lot of us that are successful in this is that we're willing to do that constant connection and constant assistance to help each other.
Yeah,
And
I
so, yeah,
love that. I love that. I think it's so important to our community to connect and collaborate in that way. And you're right. It isn't a competition. And there are a lot of homes to buy. There's a lot of homes to sell, and there's a lot of ways to do it. And there's space for everybody. And I one of my favorite quotes is collaboration happens at the top, competition happens at the bottom, and I believe in that strongly. Get in the rooms with the people that you want to be, and collaborate, and you're in good shape. That's awesome.
absolutely.
Cool. Well, let me before I let you go today, tell me one last question. I have one last question for you, and I would love to know what has been your favorite business book that has been the game changer for you in your business or your life.
Oh man, there's so many.
I know it's a trick question. It's a hard
Um,
question.
for me, I am big on leadership and how to scale and grow. So I think for me, I lean towards things like scalability. Right now, I'm reading the Story Brand, like how to market myself and things like that. And then the other big one would be Wealth Without Cash was another good book that people can read, and it's all around creative. It's written by the guy who it's written by Pace, and it's a really good read. And
Yeah.
then as a business owner, profit first is important. So there's a book called
Yeah.
Profit First for real estate investors. And because we're in real estate, that's the one that I built our business on. So I can't give you one. I got four
That's
that
all
have been
right. That's all
have been
right. I would be
instrumental.
worried if you only had one.
I've got a lot more. Like I can go really old, like Art of War and all that stuff. But those are the four recent ones within the last year that I've really read and focused on. I think if you take them and you take all four of them and you put them together, it's one great book, right? And
Yeah.
it's really going to help you with your business.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, Jay, well, thank you so much for coming on with me today. Before, really the last thing for real before we let you go, how can we find you?
So I'm on Facebook. You can look me up as it's Jay Holder on Facebook, and then on Instagram I'm the Jay Holder, and then my email is Jay at finishlinetcservices.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on again today. I was so glad to meet you. I wish you all of the best, and I appreciate how you are sharing information with our community, and I can't wait to see you again.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you for
All
having
right.
me.
All right. Thanks. right, you guys. Well, there you have it. What a fascinating conversation with Jay. I really enjoyed talking with him and learning more about the creative financing world. It sounds like there is a lot of fascinating things that can happen and a really, really interesting path as you move through a transaction. A lot of things to learn. I hope that you all found this episode to be really informative. Please go ahead and like and follow us, and definitely share the TC Exchange podcast with your friends. Thanks again for watching and listening in, and I will see you again next week, same time, same place. And that wraps up another episode of the TC Exchange podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and being a part of this incredible journey through the world of transaction coordination. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to learn, and together, we're setting the compass to true north. If you want to dive deeper into the world of TCs or simply connect with our growing community, follow us on Instagram at TrueNorthTCT. For exclusive content, insights, and engaging discussions, be sure to join our Facebook group, the TC Exchange. And for resources, courses, and a treasure trove of knowledge, check out our website at TrueNorthTransactionServices.com. Keep the conversations going, share your insights, and until next time, keep your compass pointing true north. See you soon.